So that is how we are able to do that. Okay. Okay. So super user, who is the super user? Tell me. So that is how. So who is the super user in a Oracle database? Sys user. So sys user is the user who is a super user kind of. So basically what we discussed, let me try to recap that. So we were talking about the user management concept, right? In user management, I said that we have a container database and under that we will have a pluggable database, right? We will have a pluggable database. Now assume that the problem is that when we are talking about the multi-tenant architecture, we need to understand that where the user will be created, whether the user will be created in the pluggable database or user will be created under container database, correct? Now by considering this situation, there are two type of users are there. We called it as a common user and local user. So common users means if you create a user under container database, that user will be created under all pluggable database. Try to understand. If I create a U1 here, that will be created under all pluggable database, PDB1 and PDB2. That is called common user. And local user means the user which has been created under local PDB. Okay. The user which has been created under local PDBs, that is called local user. So if I create a user here, that will be created under local PDB1 only, not in PDB2, not in container level. That is called local user. And normally in the real-time production environment, we create a user on locally only. Okay. So you will get the requirement from the client and he will say that, boss, can you please create my user under PDB1 and this PDB1 is the part of this container database. So you are going to create that user. And common users are already available in our Oracle database like sys system. These are the common users which are already there. That is called common user. Now what is meant by local user? The users which are created under PDB. And common user will have a prefix called C#, as I said earlier also. So we got to know about the common user and we got to know about the local user. Now how to create a user? Very simple. If you want to create a user, there is a syntax called create user username. Let's say the username is anything. And when you are creating a user, you need to provide a password identified by some password, whatever password you want to give. Because when you are logging to any system, let's say you want to log into the Facebook, you are going to enter your user ID and password, right? So every username will have some password also. And assume that you created that user under some PDB. Let's say there is a PDB1 and under that you have created this user. Now when you create a user, to that user you need to provide some of the other things, like we need to provide default table space, you need to provide temporary table space, and you need to provide profile also. These things are required when you are creating a user. By any chance, when you are creating a user, you have not provided these details like default table space, temporary table space, profile, you are not given, then default table space will be given it as users, temporary table space given it as temp, and profile will be default only. This is the name of your profile, default. If you have not given anything, that is a name. Now if you want to give some default table space at the time of user creation, temporary table space or profile, that also you can give at the time of user creation. Let me show you these things practically. So we have a server, and if I want to know where I'm right now connected, you can see here that show connections underscore name. So right now I'm connected to the container database, correct? Right now I got connected to the container database. And if I fire a command like create username, let's say the username is test user identified by some password is Oracle. If I create this user, if I try to create this user, I got the error message saying that the user cannot be created. Why? Because I am inside the container level, and in container level you are going to create a user called common user. So what you need to do, you need to use same syntax, but you need to use prefix called c ##, that is a prefix, and the username. And this way I got created this user. Okay, we created this user. Now when I created this user, the user details will be going to the metadata tables. We called it as a db_users. There is a metadata table called db_user. This metadata table will store the information about your all the users. Like there is a table called db_users. Select username, comma created from db_users, where username equals to this username c # test user. If I fire this command, you can see that there is a user got created on the date 13 March 2023. Remember one thing, in the metadata table the username will be stored in the capital letter. In the metadata table means this db_users, the users will be stored in the capital letter. Now I'll go to the pluggable database level. Alter session set container equals to pdb prime. When I'm going to the pluggable database level, and if I try to see this user again in the pluggable database, I can see that user is also available in pluggable database level. What does it mean? I'm able to see that user under pluggable database level also. It means if I create a user under container database, it will be available in pluggable. It's a common user. But let me create one more user here in pluggable database, where I'm right now. Show connection underscore name. I am inside the pluggable database level. So if I fire create user username, the username is pdb user identified by password is Oracle. And if I try to find out this user in pluggable database, I can see that user is available in pluggable database level. But if I go to the container level, how to go? Alter session set cdb $root, and if I try to create this user, if I try to check this user whether it is available in container, I did not get that user. What does it mean? It is a local user. So that is the difference between container user, container level, and local user. Common user and local user. Common user means the user which are created under container, and that will be created automatically to the pluggable database level. And local users means the user which are created only locally. Only locally means only local to the PDBs. That is called local user. Understood? Let me know if you have any questions. Understood or not, everyone? Permission and all I will discuss later on. First of all, you need to tell me whether you understood whatever we discuss or not. Okay. So this is called local user and common user. Okay. Now let's talk about the next concept. So as soon as you create user, okay, so we have a user and this user got created. Now this user what he want to do? He want to connect to the Oracle database, right? So he want to connect to the Oracle database. So when he want to connect to the Oracle database, he will use some of the application like maybe SQL Developer or Toad or Oracle client. He can use any applications, and by using that application he will try to connect to the Oracle database. Now the question is whether this user will have a permission to connect to the Oracle database, right? So for that, what I will do, I'll set up one environment. Okay, maybe you will not understand this concept as of now. We need to set up a platform through which the user will try to make a connection to the Oracle database. But if you are not able to understand, that's okay. We have a dedicated lecture is there. We called it as a listener. In that listener lecture, I'll show you how the user will get connected to the Oracle database. That is in tomorrow's lecture. But now what I will do, I will try to LSNR CTL start. Let me start the listener. What is listener and all? Just bear for one day and I'll show you. I'll discuss with that tomorrow. Now let me open a SQL Developer. And by using this SQL Developer only, the user will try to make a connection to the Oracle database. Now what is the IP address of my machine? What is the IP address we are using right now? 192.168.56.70, right? So I'll go to the E and I'll discuss about all this concept by tomorrow, okay? Don't worry. E. Then there is a file called TNS file, and there is a file called tnsnames.ora. In that file, there is a PDB prime is there. He will try to connect to the PDB prime. PDB prime is not there. Let me create that and let me add the entry here. So I'll mention PDB prime. Here it is 70. Okay, here I'll mention insert 1521. Here I made some mistake. I'll add that, and here PDB prime. Save it. Okay, close this. Okay, I'm going to make a new connection. Click on plus. So what is the password of this user? Now click on the connection type, click on TNS, and he want to connect to the PDB prime.